Alright, what's up everybody? So today I'm here to bring you something new and hopefully enjoyable. This will be the start of a new series where the whole point of this is to focus in on a single song, and the songs in this series, they'll all be either very serious or have a very hard-hitting message. Now, as always with my other videos, I encourage and look forward to suggestions from you guys, but to start this series in particular off, I thought it would be a good idea to look at Propaganda's Precious Puritans. Now, many of you have probably heard this song before, and if you haven't, let me just say that it's incredibly serious and frank, with Propaganda mincing no words whatsoever as he speaks on behalf of many black people regarding the way in which many churches uphold and quote the Puritans. We'll break it down bit by bit and then see what we can learn from it as Christians. Alright, now, so this song is easily one of the most intense rap songs I've probably ever heard, which is incredible when you consider the structure of the song itself. Now, before we get on to the message, I think that this song is very well made, and so I wanted to discuss why quickly. Propaganda is definitely no slouch when it comes to rap, but Precious Puritans is more like a spoken word piece, instrumentally at least. The beat seems like it's there for atmosphere and effect rather than rhythm. If you listen closely, you can hear what sounds like waves and a ship that's lightly creaking in the background. This adds a strong historical vibe to the song, giving it even more weight and importance as a stage from which Propaganda speaks. And that eerie and somewhat angry violin sample that keeps looping throughout the song gives it an uncomfortably frank feeling. And then you have occasional sharply off-key notes from the violin which add a sense of urgency to the whole song, as though things are more crucial maybe than Propaganda's rather composed speech is letting on. There's just so many elements that I see went into this song, even on an instrumental level. The message is what caught many people, but I think the message hit so hard partly due to the incredible stage that all of these sounds combined set up. Now, the crucial message that excited responses from various people was what he smartly called an in-house issue. Before anything else, despite his disagreements with those he had an issue with, he establishes his confidence and belief that both he and those the song is addressed to are in the body of Christ. This allowed for his message to come through without him attacking anyone or denouncing someone else's faith. No, rather, in this song, Propaganda has a problem with what he sees to be wrongful praise given to the Puritans. The Puritans were, and still are, seen as highly valuable and important to much of Christianity in America, often being quoted and spoken of with serious respect. And while it's not bad to respect those who came before us, from Prop's view, it goes too far beyond that. In this song, he initially tears down the worship that these historical figures receive, insisting that they were not flawless or inerrant, or generally worthy of the especially reverent respect that many churches treat them with. He mentions that these Puritans, the forefathers of those who treat them so reverently, indeed had some skeletons in their closet. Despite the revelations and great pieces of teaching they received from God, Propaganda reminds us that they taught slaves to be content in their state of living, as it was the state they got saved in, and generally condoned the slave trade or didn't fiercely oppose it. Everyone has some buried bones in their life, right? But Prop's problem is that the church seems to, from his perspective, either forget or try to cover up the fact that even the Puritans had some buried bones. As he explains, they may have amazing revelation in things such as the Valley of Vision writings, but it didn't compel them to start a major movement to overturn the evil slave trade that was going on right outside their doors. Overall, this is only one side to the song. The other side can be found from the near beginning, where Propaganda talks about quoting Columbus to Cherokees or Cortez to Aztecs. No matter how great a revelation these two men received, they still committed considerable atrocities to those peoples, and quoting whatever wise things they said at some point would in no way assuage the brutal scar that history has left behind. The other side to this is that Propaganda is asking church leaders, and ultimately everyone, to stop romanticizing and quoting any and all Christians who seem to have some degree of great wisdom or influence or whatever it is that we may romanticize about other Christians. From Prop's view, the Puritans did some things right, and he's not implying that they weren't saved. They were men though, far from inerrant, and the blind reverence with which they get treated is sort of like rubbing salt in the historical wounds of the African American community. At least that's the whole idea I've gotten from this song. God uses broken sticks to make straight lines. That's how propaganda sees it. And as much as people shouldn't quote the Puritans, they shouldn't quote propaganda. The Puritans never reached that perfect balance of correct doctrine and proper action, just as propaganda hasn't done so. Nor will any group of Christians really get this completely right. None of us are inerrant as humans, and we should never cover up or forget wounds that have been inflicted, as it's always at the expense of another group, one that may very well be in the body of Christ. It's a powerful and solemn song, laced with tongue-in-cheek moments, an occasionally flippant attitude, and pointed remarks. It's as though the song carried so much weight because it not only represented Prop's heart, but also the pain that perhaps resides in many other African Americans' hearts. There's points in the song where he's saying we, as though he were speaking on behalf of the community, and points where he's saying I, as though to make the message or intent of that moment more personal. Even with these points, the song is unmistakably a letter of sorts from one community to another. A very frank and heartbroken letter. So, what can we take away from a song like this? I, for one, didn't find it to be divisive. Initially, it seems like an angry attack on certain churches and groups, but propaganda successfully expands the message by pointing out how many of us end up romanticizing someone or something that's flawed. I found that to be the biggest takeaway from this song, although that may be so for me as an African American man. Maybe someone of another color with different life experience might walk away with a much different meaning from this song. But I think, biblically at least, the song stands strong because it doesn't end on a divisive note. Right? Churches should stop quoting the Puritans, maybe. But perhaps everyone in general should stop quoting others before we end up with a precious propaganda, or a precious Lecrae, or a precious what up RG, a precious anything. The song is able to have a universal application while also still addressing a specific group. In this case, many churches across America. I really enjoyed how propaganda took something that would usually be divisive and completely flipped it in a way so that no one would walk away guilt-free. Overall, what I think we can learn from this song is that it's very important to remember that no matter how great someone's message or deed seems, even if it was inspired by God, it came through a human, and we are all equally far from perfection as people. In that light, it really makes little sense to romanticize others as though they weren't as human as the rest of us. Of course, that's just my 2 cents on this whole song though. It's an old one for sure, but that's never really stopped me from bringing up these kinds of gems in previous videos. Now, this is the part where I'm curious to see what you guys thought of Precious Puritans. And when you honestly examine yourself, do you see a precious anything or anyone in your life, in the same way that propaganda describes the Precious Puritans? Now, thanks for watching guys. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know about any other serious songs with a heavy subject that you'd like to hear me break down in the future. Until next week, peace out.